Hi guys, Steve here. How you going? It's nice to see you. Hey, so welcome to this week's vlog. I'm gonna do this quicker. I swear to God. I swear to jeepers. This week is gonna be less annoyingly drawn out. Here we go. This week we have got the race review and analysis from yesterday. This week, round 4 and the final of the Wellington Regions Interclub series. What bum of the week? I'm going to have an update on the power meter situation. We're going to talk about, and the thing I want to talk about this week is preparation for races. Everything including like the period of the week before a race, the day 2 days before, the day before, the day of, and after. How did I approach that? It's worked really well for me over 20 years of racing a bike, and sort of what I've got down to that's good now. So we'll cover all that off, and I'm going to get all that done. I'm just going to rip through this. This video is going to be the equivalent of what happens when you eat too many plums. It's not going to be shit, but it's going to be very fast and very violent. All right, and very fruity. All right, so here we go. Yesterday's race was round 4 of the Wellington Interclub series. I swear I'm going to get through this in less than half an hour. Today's active recovery is half an hour. This, what I'm doing on my bike, actually segues a little bit in to what I'm going to talk about with all the race preparation before and after and stuff, because this is part of my race. This is what I'm doing. I know it doesn't really look like it. Here we go. My computer, I'm just whizzing along at a little, I don't know if you can see that, can you? I don't know. About 140, 150 watts or something like that. Sub L1. The only purpose of this is recovery. We'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, Interclub 4. Hosted by the good people at Athletics Masterton. 4 clubs in Wellington, as you know. Wellington Masters, which has sort of become my club. It used to be PMP. I think I'm still a member of PMP. I don't really know. They didn't have so many races on. So, for no other reason, I've sort of gone to be more of a member of Masters. So you got PMP, you got Masters, you got Capity, and you've got the Athletics Club Masterton, ACM. And all of these clubs run races in Wellington. Like some of them, like the Masters, you need to be a master, meaning 35 plus, for all the races except the time trials. But this Interclub series, anyone can enter. So, because it's the final, I went in with quite a different approach to some of the other races, really. This, again, is a handicap road race. So that means that you have grades that are handicapped. Limit start first. They get the biggest handicap, about 29 minutes, I think they had this time. Then all your break groups, 2 or 3 of those. Break 1, break 2, and then scratch, which is like the fast guys, which is our group. So the idea is that it should be handicapped in such a way that we, catch them just before the finish or right on the finish. And it worked out pretty well. The handicapping's been quite good this year. Been almost perfect. And it was this weekend too. Okay, so let's talk about the race. So we had a circuit, this sort of like little spiral looking circuit just out of Masterton here. Started at the ACM club rooms there, headed north and came up here. There's a little climb, what is this called? Kaka'amu climb. 1.3 Ks, 6%, kicked up a little bit near the top. I was a little bit heftier than I was expecting, actually. So I was quite looking forward to that climb at the end. Now, I've been panicking a bit, well, not panicking, my form's coming down. Or so I thought, actually. It stayed pretty good. I thought that I was going to have the same thing as what happened to me at the end of the spring season when I hit a race called Rice Mountain Classic, which is sort of the hardest race, one of the hardest races in the Wellington calendar, and I hit the dust so incredibly badly. About halfway through, I just turned to concrete. And I'd half expected that. It was a bit of a shock when it happened. And now I'm getting to the same phase in my summer racing period where I thought that my form would start dropping. And admittedly, this isn't nearly as hard or as long. But at least it went okay. So let's see. So approaching this race, that was obviously going to be the main feature, was the little climb at the end. Handicap, so it's basically like a 10 time trial. So all of the guys in your group are really working together to try to catch the other groups on the road. So it's like 2 races in one. You know, if you catch all the other groups, effectively then it just turns into a mass start road race because all the groups are, or whoever is there is together, and then it's a free-for-all. Or alternatively, what normally happens is for 99 or even 100% of the race, you're basically team time trialing it with your team, well, with your grades, so that you can try to catch everyone up the road. Okay, so pace, I guess, was pretty hard. I had a pretty numb feeling in my legs this time around. Don't really know why. We had, let's look in cycling analytics here. Oops, it's the wrong thing. I just downloaded the new bloody operating system. It's killing me, I don't know how to do it. So we averaged, let's just break down the numbers. 50, was it about 55 Ks? Just over 55 Ks, 55.3. Average speed 42.1. Average power 303 watts. And that had an EP of 324. That's pretty high. It's a short race, admittedly, but that's quite high power. So we were lapping out pretty hardcore then. 42 Ks over a course with quite a big climb in the middle, dry as rock. That's not bad. Average heart rate 157, pretty normal. Average cadence 98. So I guess I was pedaling a little bit faster than normal, normally low 90s. Training load 104. Look at that, I don't know if you can see that. See that in red? And that's actually a good, I'll just talk about that briefly, what that means. A training load is just a metric used to determine more or less objectively how difficult a ride was, external of power or time or anything like that. And load, that load is defined as 1 hour at FTP, threshold power. So my threshold power is about, well, as far as the data that the computer knows, is about 370 watts or something. So it's determining, I spent, if you averaged it out, like an average of just over, I spent just over or just on an hour at FTP for that whole ride. So for that, the reason that's a good metric to know is, a good rule of thumb, is 1 day active recovery, or 24 hours active recovery per 100 load points. So you could quite easily go into a training ride that was 200 load points, assuming your FTP number in the modeling is accurate. You really want to spend 2 days active recovery and so on. This is active recovery, what I'm doing now. The only purpose of this exercise is to get blood moving through the body and recover. I am not trying to get any sort of aerobic or muscular or any other kind of adaptation today apart from recovery. So that's why I'm just tootling on at a very low wattage, and I can talk and do this video and everything else. That's all I'm doing. The reason that's important is because people forget it all of the time. Actually, I think anyone who's ever picked up a coaching book knows. The number one thing it says is here's there it is, 101. Training, getting better at something, is about a series of adaptations. How do you make an adaptation? You present a stimulus and a recovery. And the combination of those two will allow you to adapt. Well, everyone can do the stimulus bit because that's hard and people like the sensation of doing. And they know instinctively that by challenging yourself you get stronger, which is true. But it's very problematic when you don't team that up with the other 50%, which is recovery, because you will just keep digging a hole. You know, imagine it's like digging a hole is the stimulus, the racing or the training or whatever it is. And when you fill up that hole, and when you recover, it's like you're filling that hole with dirt, but you fill it with a little bit more every time. The dirt mound gets higher and higher. That's a terrible metaphor. But I think you can see where I'm going with it. The idea is that every time you have a stimulus and a response and a recovery and an adaptation, you get a little bit stronger. So that's where load comes in, kind of giving you a gauge, an objective gauge of roughly how much recovery is good for a particular stimulus. Racing, just as on that, racing normally, it's very common to see in a bike race, you often spend, it's usually 100 load points an hour is a really good rule of thumb. Usually comes out somewhat near that. So you can almost just say, look, if I've been racing for 2 hours, give yourself 2 active recovery days. 3 hours, 3 active recovery days, and so on. That's a good rule of thumb. Okay, so that's the course. If we have a look down here in CA, I'll just delete a couple of the channels there so you can see. That's obviously that's mostly just flat or false flat, more or less. Dry as rock climb. That climb is about where we caught the majority of the other, well, we caught brake, or the brake guys on that bottom of that climb, part of the way up it. Now, we were honking pretty hard. If I look at my power in that time, so I'm about 80 kilos, let's put on the power channel, and we'll just zoom in there a little bit. So, for the majority of that climb, see there's a spike there. If I highlight that in average power 420 watts. So I'm operating about VO2 max there. That's a very intense effort. And if you look at Strava, don't count for wind, was the 8th fastest time on that segment. And not by terribly much, by about 15 or 20 seconds, whatever it was. So we were motoring up there pretty swiftly, and a lot of guys tried to jump on and couldn't hold on. A lot of experienced guys will look at a situation like that. That's the time to put on a lot of pressure to try to drop the other guys in the groups you've caught. And this is just the way it is. That's good racing. As a tip for someone, if you do have a group come through like that, and it's the time to go. It's the make or break moment. So don't save yourself. If you want to do well and you want to be up and mix it with a bunch, there won't always be efforts like that. That's just temporary. And it's only under 4 minutes. If you can just sit on your rivet, grit your teeth, do what it takes, go into the sweet cave of pain, very soon it'll be over and you'll be on the descent and you'll get a chance to get your breath back. Now you might get dropped somewhere else, but also there might not be too many efforts like that. So if you can, go with the mindset of, this is all I have to do. Okay, you might have to do it again, but you need the mindset of, this is it now, make or break. So that was where things split up. So let's look at who we were racing with here. Here's the page from ACM. Let's look at final round. I don't think they've got full results up yet, but they've got the results in the order they came in. So you can see here, here's all the people, all these guys. Break one, break one, break one, break one. So it looks like they all stayed away. And that's about, what, 20 guys there. So we didn't quite catch them, but there wasn't much in it. Who's this front guy here, 144s. They're in the 144s. Here I am, scratch, 147. So we're about 3 minutes behind, give or take. Tristan won. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So we had Tristan, me, Anthony, we had Mike, Naylor, Luke McDermott, Kelvin Standrel, Mark Langlands, Tom McCallum. Let's see who got dropped off the train. Samuel Tanello, he got dropped off there. He came in there. Oh, and he's maybe who we dropped. Oh, looks like Tom must have dropped off a little bit. Mark maybe these guys dropped off a little bit. Mark, Kelvin, Luke, maybe towards, I don't know where, maybe towards the bottom of the climb. So coming into, if we do fast forward a bit, we were lapping out. We were pretty strong. Once again, Anthony Nalder, who I was most interested in, and I'll get to it in a minute. I was mostly marking Anthony, really. He was pulling very strong turns today. All the guys were pulling pretty strong. So we got, okay, so we'd gone over that hill. There might have been 10 of us in the group. There were some strong guys who had recovered from break and they jumped on. Rob Kilvington was one of them. He's a very strong climber. Old mountain biker like me. Dirty old mountain biker. Ollie Ferry was in there, pulling some turns, so he was good. So those guys had jumped on our train, maybe a couple of other guys, that was about it. So there was about 7 or 8 of us, bottom of the climb. Now, they said in the parcours description that it was going to be about 54 Ks, but it was about a K longer than that. Well, according to my Garmin, so who knows who was right. So I didn't know the final, and I didn't know at all what it looked like or how long it was. So I was kind of just going from the information on my Garmin. And I don't think there's really anything else you can do apart from that. And also guys who did know the final. I noticed Tristan was getting very frisky towards the top. In fact, he had a good attack and won. He opened up the gap of about 10 seconds on us. Or no, it was more than that, about 20 seconds on us or something. Just over 10 seconds. So he went away and won. I didn't follow his wheel because I wanted to follow Anthony's wheel. So in the reason I was doing that was because in the points for the series, Anthony was 1 point behind me. So in the series, the handicap, there's a guy called Yuri and Gertz, there was me and there was Anthony. It's 1 point behind me. So really, I knew I couldn't catch the other guys on points, the guys in first and second. So main in fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and that were quite a wee way away. So really, as far as my tactics went in the final, it was about marking Anthony, let's be honest. So me and Rob especially was trying to on his wheel a bit. I was letting him come around me a bit and go on the front. I wasn't really particularly worried about jumping on Tristan because I was concerned that if I jumped on Tristan, so this is where, actually, let's set the scene. We're coming to maybe the last, what turned out to be the last 200, 300 metres of the race. And so there's me, there's Mike Naylor, there's Rob, and there's Anthony. Might have been other guys, but I think that's all I could remember. And we were sort of up there, kind of going quite hard up the climb, but certainly looking around. And the main consideration for me, really, I wasn't going to go if Mike or Rob went. I wasn't really interested. I just wanted to follow Anthony's wheel because of the point situation. So I was really sitting on Anthony's wheel, more or less. But we were going pretty hard. The guy doesn't back down, so he was moving up there pretty swiftly. There wasn't really any shadow boxing going on. It was reasonably pretty hardcore up the climb. In fact, if I go back to CA, I can zoom in on this. Let's have a look what happened. I'll zoom out here. Give it a blow by blow. You can see we're most of the way up the climb. Okay, and so he's on the front, and really, we saw the finish line come into sight about 50 meters up the hill, 100 meters, 50 meters, and more or less we were lined up side by side. This is at this point here. Don't know if you can see. Power's pretty even there. Coming up there, I mean, if I highlight that section, oh, you see the stupid thing. We might have been pulling, somewhere around about the mid 400 to 450 watts. And then we sort of lined up. At that point, I didn't really want to stay on his wheel because we were so close, maybe 50 meters out from the line, that on an uphill like that, it can get a bit tricky to come around if you leave it too late. So that was fine. Nothing had particularly happened. We lined it up. He was on the right, I was on the left. And we just opened the guns, really, and had a good old sprint for the last 40 meters, which you can see is this part here. So I'll zoom in on that, nice and close. That's the sprint. We went for, so if I highlight that, we got 11 seconds of sprinting there, average power 847. Maxing out early there, just over 1,000 watts, I think. But don't have a particularly big sprint. For a big unit, I don't have a big sprint. He may have had some problem with his shifting, I think, I don't know. He mentioned something about that. But ultimately, I just pipped him on the line by about half a wheel. And that was the most important thing. I think Mike was just behind us. And then Rob or something. There was a few people on the road. So just to sort of finish off my thoughts about that final, there was a few people around who were from slower groups coming back. And it's very important to make sure you're going to get boxed in or caught behind them or anything like that, because it's very easy to have that happen and ruin your sprint. So just looking at what line you're going to take up towards the finish line is important. You can't control people swerving in front of you, but you can get lucky. You can minimize those risks. And just think about maybe what your strengths are. I don't have a big power spike in my sprint. I can't push 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 watts like some of these savages. I top out at about 1,200 on a real good day, maybe 1,100 at the end of a race like this. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to have a very good opportunity to pull around late, but I probably got a long sprint. So to make sure that it comes to that 50 meters from the line, it's time to get going. I can't just put in a big burst in the last 30 or 20 and catch and go around. It's not going to happen for me. So, it's 11 seconds of sprinting. It's not just a small burst, but so that's the way it worked out. Over the line, boom. So, kind of mission accomplished. Now, if I'm looking back on it, what could I have done better? Should I have gone with Tristan? I don't know. I think Anthony's strong enough that he could have come on my wheel, and I would have just driven him up the road, and he probably would have come around me at the end. I don't know. But so I think, in fairness, it probably went pretty well. So congrats, Tristan, for winning that. You did great. Good work. As far as the time up there, we must have had a pretty good time. That final climb is called this, what did I call it before? Kaka'amu. 3 minutes 12. You can see Tristan and I had the fastest times up there. 3:04 and 3:12. So we must have been hauling pretty good up there. I don't know, it gets used a lot. It's a cool climb. Maybe it doesn't get used that much. But we'll just have a look. Full leaderboard. Let's zoom out and look at how many people have ever done it. It's only got 73, so it can't be used that often. I can see 2015, 2016. It's been used a little bit. Tristan, he's about the same weight as me. He put out 447 watts. I put out 421. You can see there, and so about 20 more watts than me, and about 10 seconds faster. So if you're looking at kind of power to weight, that's kind of one good, quick and dirty way to determine where your weight is relative to someone else. You can look at the power in Strava and your times, assuming the wind conditions and that are all the same. Obviously they are if you're in the same race. And you get a feel for weight. You can see Anthony here, much the same time, but only 384 watts. So look at what a difference. Now, Anthony might be 10 kgs lighter than me. So to haul 10 kgs less up the hill in the same time takes only 384 watts compared to 321. So 40 watts or so difference. Just shows you the power to weight. So that was the race. And mission accomplished. So I think in the end I'll end up third on points or something for the series. I got 3 wins in terms of fastest time, and one a couple of weeks ago, which was nowhere near that, which is like somewhere in the middle. But 3 wins, happy. So that was a good series, and that's what a result I wanted from the series. So yay. Okay, what are we going to talk about? So we're getting set to talk about a little bit about what you do in the days leading up to a race, how I structure this, and I think and the basis for what I base that on, in terms of the science and in terms of my own, what I've seen from other riders that I coach and from what I've done myself over time. And I'll just keep it simple. Let's talk about what I do and why. So let's say a race is on a Sunday. Let's just walk through how it looks. And it's not always this way. But as a rule of thumb, it's good to have, assuming you've raced, let's say you've raced on Sunday and you've got another race the coming Sunday. Okay, how's it look? Monday, Tuesday, normally 2 active recovery days from a race. Now I know I said before there was only about 100 load points on that race. As I get older, the older you get, the more recovery you need. Anywhere over about 100 load points, especially there's a lot of fiber tearing and things goes on in a race because of the accelerations, the higher MP compared to training. I like to go for 2 active recovery days. So I'm 39, and I feel like I can just see that recovery times slow down. It's very normal. 2 active recovery days, Monday, Tuesday. This is what that looks like for me. I've got a lot of other work to do, so the most effective way I can do that is to sit in my kitchen like a savage and just pound out half an hour to 50 minutes or so, get the blood moving, help my body recover, do some stretching, eat well. That's what it looks like on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is normally a good day to do about an hour, I find, of just working your aerobic endurance zone to maintain your aerobic endurance, and sometimes, more often than not, every 5 minutes, a microburst sprint drill. How you do these, it's a little bit dependent on the time in your build-up. Normally, I'll just throw in one of these every 5 minutes. It's proven to, some of the science indicates that it actually gives you a slightly better aerobic endurance maintenance effect. And it also has the benefit of just making the ride a little bit more interesting. And all that entails is usually 5 to 10 seconds, 9 out of 10 effort, and then immediately back to your aerobic endurance zone. That's Wednesday. Thursday, active recovery again. Friday, another aerobic endurance effort with some sprint drills, or not, depending on how you're feeling. If you need more recovery, cut out the sprint drills. Now, something I've been experimenting with is I find that some people respond to a Friday 2-day out workout, a higher load. It seems that some people, it probably depends a bit on your state of freshness and your form, and probably your physiology as to how you respond. But I've got 2 protocols I use with my riders. 1, the low load protocol, and 2, the high load protocol, which is actually quite different. It involves, it essentially is a little bit, it's about a third longer, 30% longer workout. It involves longer and higher, actually lower intensity VO2 max intervals, but in a grouping of those in the middle of the ride, followed by going back to your aerobic endurance zone and a warm down. And it seems that for certain people respond better to that 2 days later. Seems to open up the legs better, seems to give them better, maybe some sort of hormonal change or something like that. Maybe a change to how much muscle glycogen they can oxidize. Who knows? It's not entirely clear, and sometimes it's a bit of trial and error. So something I like to do with my athletes is go through a series of trials to determine what's best. I mean, a good way to see that kind of for yourself is people often know the sensation where you do a big effort. Everyone knows this one sensation, which is the sensation that you tend to race better after somewhat of an effort somewhere in 48 hours prior to a big race. Everyone who's experienced has felt that. If you don't, and it's pure recovery, you can feel stodgy. Now, there's lots of reasons, like scientific reasons for that back the hypothesis that doing some high load work in the 48 hours, 24 hours prior gives you a better sensation on the day and better performance. And the people that I coach, I talk through their reasons for that with them and refer to the evidence for that. But the big picture is there's an effect. So going back to it, what's a little unclear is who and why respond to a higher load protocol 2 days out from a race. And it's something, as I say, normally trial and error can help you with. The protocol I use is set up in such a way as it's not going to hurt the rider. It's not going to make them particularly less fresh. It might do a little bit, but it's not really going to affect them majorly. A lot of it is about the subjective feeling the cyclist has in their own head. And sometimes it's a matter of trying these things a few times, because you don't really know all the times you do a race whether or not it was effective. You might need to do a few races to collect enough data from your power and your heart rate to determine whether it was an effect. Look at your power curve, look at your EP. There's lots of things that go into it and lots of analysis, because you have to determine whether a sensation or whether a protocol had an effect objectively. Because lots of people know the sensation of having good legs or bad legs. Well, that doesn't always mean you did or didn't. You can go into a race and feel fabulous and feel perky and do crap and have an awful power curve, and vice versa. And so you need to be able to separate your subjective feelings from the objective data. So that's why capturing all your information with a power meter and doing the analysis is really important. So anyway, high load or low load protocol 2 days out. Day before, it's like a shortened version of the high load protocol. So it involves, for most people and for me, a workout. It's only about half an hour. It involves some intervals and a protocol of VO2 max intervals. You need to have a power meter to be able to determine where that is, because they're relatively short. So if you're using heart rate, it's not going to catch up in enough time probably to know what intensity you're at. So you're going to have to go off, if you are using heart rate alone, just subjective perceived exertion, about 9 out of 10. That's often surprisingly close to what your actual power objective levels are, but it's better to have a power meter. Okay, so you've done that. Then it's important for people to have a good, usually for most people, not everyone, a good meal of complex carbohydrates after that. The evidence is that you will oxidize a slightly higher proportion of that glucose to muscle and liver glycogen by doing that workout first, immediately prior. Things like good sleep and that are important. day of the race, you're going to warm up. I usually like to give myself about 20 minutes between the start of the race and my warm up, and I think a lot of people leave that too late, and it just means you're faffing around a lot immediately prior to the race. You should have time to rock up to the line, have a chat, be early, all that stuff. Remember the Delgado rule. Look at my previous video if you want to know what the Delgado rule is all about. The race is a whole different matter. Takes care of itself. Have a warm down. Usually just, you don't feel like much, and let's be practical. 5 to 10 minutes, easy spinning, is a good way to restore, get the lactate out of your body, and then of course a good balanced meal of carbohydrates, proteins and things immediately afterwards, and then repeat. So that's what a race week might look like. It works well for me. Variants of that work well for the people that I coach, and it's important to really look at that objective data when you're trying to determine what is successful and what isn't, because how an athlete might feel can be affected by lots more than just the protocols you followed leading into a race. And so it's important to look at what they actually did on the day. So that's it. Look, as far as nutrition goes during the race, I think that warrants its own little discussion. It's very important, and in short, the feeling I get is a lot of people know kind of the basics, which is important about refueling, but they kind of often forget to put in place the plans they've made, which is very important. I know it sounds super obvious, but people don't do it. So we'll talk about that on a different day, what I do and what I use. Tailwind's what I use when I drink in races. It's the best I've ever found, and I love it. All right, well, I promised this would be shorter, about 30 minutes. I think that's enough active recovery for today. As always, this is brought to you by Capital Cycles, Tailwind Nutrition, FitLab, and Biomaxa. I just got after a race, like the next day, sometimes I kind of dread doing this because I'm thinking, it's a bit raw in the nethers. It's feeling a little bit chopped up downstairs, and I just put that Biomaxa on my chamois, and it's almost like sinking into a delicious bed of moist, honey-flavored deliciousness. And I think that feeling, instead of that sandpaperish nasty feeling, the deep bed of soft chamois, soft pre-moistened chamois, I think that's worth the price of entry. That's worth the $19.95 every time. In a big tub, I get about, 50, something like that, uses. So it's $20. I don't know how much it costs. Let's go to the website, find out how much it costs. Biomaxa, you can order direct from the website. Now, if you're watching this, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you money right now. I'm going to reach through and I'm going to get money, and I'm going to open your mouth. Open up. We'll shove it right. No, don't open your mouth. Okay, sorry, I had to go and cut the video to go and get the code. Okay, so here we go. This is what you want. Look at that. This probably looks backwards to you, is it? I don't know. It looks backwards to me. Biomaxa. I like this one. Pro Ride chamois cream. You don't have to get the Pro Ride. You can get the other one, but I like that one. Okay, so that's a 200ml bottle thing. Okay, so what you want to do is go to www.biomaxa.com and you can get 10% off anything and products and free shipping with the code, okay? I'll put the code in the notes, but it's Steve Bale FitLab. The FitLab is in capitals and the S and the B in Steve Bale is capitals. The rest is lowercase. So Steve Bale FitLab, I'll put it in the notes. 10% off the product and the shipping. Oh, sorry, free shipping. Free shipping! And 10% off the product. That's pretty good. That's going to save you $15 or something like that. It's better than nothing. Put that in, and you can get this. Give it a go. It's totally worth it. Alright, dude. See you soon.